This video was brought to you by our brand new channel, TLDR Business. Subscribe by clicking the link in the description. As you might have noticed, tensions are running high in Taiwan at the moment. In response to Pelosi's visit in early August, the PLA staged unprecedented military drills around the island, and a leaked audio recording from a meeting between CCP generals in May apparently suggests that the PLA have begun mobilizing 140,000 troops in preparation for a full-scale invasion in the near future. So in this video, we've been taking a look at if and when the CCP are going to invade Taiwan. Accordingly, we've split this video into three parts. Firstly, we're going to ask whether the CCP actually wants to invade Taiwan. Secondly, assuming that the CCP is indeed planning on invasion, we're going to ask whether this will happen in the next couple of years or sometime further down the line. Thirdly, and finally, assuming the CCP actually wants Taiwan soon, we're going to ask when precisely would be the best time for the PLA to stage an invasion. So, does the CCP actually plan on invading Taiwan? Well, for most of modern history, a full-scale invasion was perceived as a remote possibility. And that's because from the end of the Chinese Civil War all the way through till 1979, Taiwan was protected by the US. This started as a result of the Korean War, when President Truman decided that securing the Taiwan state was tactically significant for the war, and sent a naval fleet to patrol it in 1950. This was then formalized in 1954 with the US-Taiwan Mutual Defense Pact. Now, it's notable that Taiwan's economy also grew rapidly in this time period, especially in the 60s and 70s, which meant that from the 50s all the way through until the 70s, Taiwan was protected by the US and significantly more technologically advanced than the mainland, which made an invasion look incredibly unlikely. Relations recalibrated in the 80s though, after the US cut diplomatic ties with Taiwan and Chinese economic growth accelerated. Therefore, the balance of power between the two sides became more equal, and fortunately, Chiang Ching-kuo of Taiwan and Deng Xiaoping of China were keener on diplomacy than their predecessors were. As such, political relations stabilized, and in 1987, Chiang ended martial law and loosened trade and travel restrictions with mainland China. However, tensions rose again in 1988, when Lee Teng-hui became the president of Taiwan. And that's because Lee was less keen on reunification than many of his peers, and his decision to travel to the United States in the run-up to the 1996 presidential election provoked a furious reaction from China's PLA, ultimately triggering the Third Taiwan Strait crisis. However, after Chen Shui-bian's election in 2000 and his explicit announcement that Taiwan wouldn't declare independence as long as the mainland refrained from using military force, the government in mainland China apparently decided that a gradualist approach to reunification via economic dependence was their best bet. And this did make sense, given that independence didn't look likely, and Taiwan was only becoming more economically intertwined with the mainland. Trade continued to expand then, with exports rising from about $1 billion in 1987 to over $32 billion in 2002, when China became Taiwan's largest trading partner and 3 million Taiwanese were visiting the mainland every year. You get the idea then. From the 50s until the 80s, an invasion was unlikely because, well, the PLA just didn't really have the capacity. And from the 80s until recently, an invasion was unlikely because Beijing instead decided to pursue a gradualist approach of reunification via economic interdependence. However, this gradualist approach came under strain with the election of the Democratic Progressive Party's Tsai Ing-wen in 2016, who refused to accept the standard One China formulation as the basis for continuing negotiations across the strait. Tsai then secured a landslide re-election in 2020, with her campaign focusing heavily on Beijing's crackdown on Hong Kong. Since then, Beijing's rhetoric over Taiwan has become increasingly hawkish, and the PLA have deployed more ships in the Taiwan Strait, staged regular incursions into Taiwan's ADIZ, and pressured Taiwan's dwindling number of economic partners to switch their recognition to Beijing. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the CCP actually plans on invading. While rhetoric has definitely escalated, Beijing has always insisted on its right to use force regarding Taiwan, and this isn't the first Taiwan Strait crisis. Hawkish rhetoric and the PLA's provocations could just be an insurance policy, designed to deter Taipei from declaring independence. Nonetheless, the fact that China is limiting the number of mainland tourists and trying to reduce economic ties with Taiwan does at least suggest that Beijing has given up on the gradualist approach. So if Beijing is planning on invading, then what's likely to happen now? Well, there are basically two schools of thought. The first says that an invasion is unlikely in the near future, while the other says that an invasion is imminent and will probably happen sometime before 2027. The people who say that an invasion is unlikely in the near future argue that as things stand, an invasion simply isn't in Beijing's interests. China's economy is wavering at the moment, and the PLA are modernizing their forces, and the US still compete militarily in Asia. Advocates of this position also note that China's anti-secession laws stipulate that non-peaceful means would only be used against Taiwan when all other possibilities have been exhausted. And Xi has stressed that time and momentum are on Beijing's side. Essentially, an invasion fails a basic cost-benefit analysis. It will be hugely costly with no guarantee of success. The second school of thought, though, argues that while invading Taiwan might be a risky proposition, China's window of opportunity is shrinking, so they need to do it soonish. China's economy is slowing, its population aging, and its military advantage over the US in the Pacific is expected to wane by 2027, when new US military tech is expected to come online. Also, on the island, perceptions of the mainland are deteriorating, with fewer and fewer Taiwanese people identifying as Chinese every year. This, combined with the continuing success of the Democratic People's Party and the widening ideological gap between Taiwan and the mainland, mean that Taiwan is only going to drift further from the mainland in the future. Furthermore, the US's preoccupation with Ukraine has depleted their military supplies. Essentially, the argument is that now might be Beijing's best chance. So, assuming they're going to invade, they should do it now. So, let's assume that you buy this argument, and an invasion is coming sometime in the next few years. The question is, when exactly? Well, invading Taiwan is no easy task. While it's only 150 kilometers away from the mainland, Taiwan is a mountainous island with limited number of possible landing spots, most of which are in the north of the country near Taipei. Taiwan's varying geography, which includes wetlands, mountains, and densely populated areas, means a total occupation would require a huge range of different combat skills and a massive logistics operation to supply PLA forces. The point we're making is that it's not like the PLA could just sail over, and conditions would have to be just right if they want to maximize their level of success. Unfortunately for the PLA, Taiwan has 2 monsoon seasons, and treacherous weather leaves just 2 brief windows of attack, one in April-May, the other in October. And that's why the next few months could be so important. If you think that an invasion is imminent, as many US officials do, then October could be crunch time. This video was brought to you by our brand new channel, TLDR Business. Over there, we've made videos on everything from Elon Musk's lawsuit against Twitter and the latest developments following the whistleblower's testimony, the secret powers of the porn industry who dictate what porn can and can't be made, and why, despite Netflix initiating the streaming wars are kind of killing Netflix. If you want to check out any of those videos or the others that we have planned, then check out the TLDR Business YouTube channel. It's linked down below. So please head over, subscribe, and ring the bell. Thank Thanks for your support.